Okay, let's just jump right in with the puzzle. It's this strange, kind of unsettling feeling that sits at the very heart of our modern world. I mean, on one hand, we're surrounded by all this incredible progress, right? But on the other, something just feels deeply, deeply wrong. We're going to try and unpack that feeling.
So the philosopher Max Horkheimer asked this exact question way back in 1947. But seriously, doesn't it feel like he could have just posted this on social media like 5 minutes ago? We've got AI making art, we've got rockets going to Mars. I mean, this is stuff that's beyond the wildest utopian dreams of the past. And yet, that universal feeling of fear, it just doesn't seem to go away. Why is that?
You see, Horkheimer really put his finger on this massive contradiction. He's saying that the more powerful our technology gets, the less powerful we seem to become as individuals. Our autonomy, our very ability to think for ourselves and push back against all the manipulation, it feels like it's just shrinking. It's in free fall. And you have to ask, how is that even possible?
All right, so to solve this modern paradox, Horkheimer says we've got to dig deeper than just, politics or economics. He says the problem is in our software, our core programming, the actual way we think. The very concept of reason itself, he argues, has been completely twisted.
So, let's look at the old way of thinking first. For guys like Plato and the ancient Greeks, reason wasn't just something in your head. It was out there, woven into the very fabric of the universe, like a cosmic blueprint. It was this powerful force that could help us figure out the big questions, not just how to do things, but what was ultimately good or just or meaningful. It was like a universal moral compass for everyone.
Okay, and now we get to the modern version. This is the reason we're all familiar with. Think of it like a super powerful calculator in your brain. It's amazing at one thing, finding the quickest, most efficient way to get from point A to point B. But it has absolutely no opinion on whether point B is a good place to go. It's all how and never why. It can map out the perfect strategy to build a bomb, but it's completely silent on why you shouldn't.
And right there, that's the split. That's the fundamental change that, according to Horkheimer, changes everything. On one side, you've got reason as a moral compass, guiding us toward what's right. And on the other, you've got reason as just a tool, a simple instrument that anybody can pick up and use for literally any purpose, good or bad, with zero judgment.
So how did we get from one to the other? Well, Horkheimer's argument is that this wasn't just a simple shift. Over hundreds of years, one of these ideas of reason didn't just win, it basically ate the other one. This subjective, instrumental reason, this tool reason, it staged a total hostile takeover of human thought. And Horkheimer gave this event a name, the Eclipse of Reason.
And this didn't happen overnight. It was more like a slow-motion coup d'etat happening over centuries. Back in the ancient world, reason was all about finding the greatest good for society. Then you get to the Enlightenment, and reason becomes this amazing weapon against tradition and superstition, but it also gets a lot more technical, more formalized. And by the time the Industrial Revolution hits, bam, the transformation is complete. Reason is no longer a guide, it's just a tool serving one single boss: efficiency.
Yeah, that's the key point right there. Reason was basically demoted. It went from being the master, the guide that could tell us where to go and why, to just being a servant, a tool, completely captured by this massive, relentless machine of production and power.
And you better believe a change that big came with a price tag. This eclipse of reason, this so-called progress, it came with a bill. And according to Horkheimer, the cost has been, well, absolutely devastating. So what happens when reason is only a tool? The consequences are pretty catastrophic. First, it completely hollows out our most important ideals, leaving them empty. Second, it degrades the natural world into just stuff to be used up. And finally, it dissolves you, me, the individual, into nothing more than a tiny cog in a giant, impersonal system.
I mean, really think about that for a second. If reason can only tell you what's useful, not what's good, then how can you even argue that freedom is better than tyranny, or that justice is better than injustice? You can't. Not rationally. All those big ideas just become a matter of personal taste. It's like arguing that vanilla is better than chocolate. They lose any claim to being a universal truth.
And that leads to a conclusion that is, frankly, chilling. Horkheimer says that from the perspective of this new formalized reason, that statement you see there, it's not even controversial. It's just logical. The idea that justice is better than injustice? Scientifically, it's useless because you can't prove it in a lab. Our most profound values become literally meaningless.
And it doesn't stop with our values. With this instrumental reason as our only guide, the entire world, all of nature just becomes one giant warehouse of raw materials. It's just stuff to be exploited and processed. The goal isn't to live in harmony or find meaning. The goal is just domination for its own sake. Domination of the planet, domination of our own nature, with no off switch, no guiding principle to ever say, okay, that's enough.
And this image he gives us is so haunting because it perfectly captures what happens to us, to the individual, in all of this. He says we've built this enormous, powerful, perfectly efficient machine of a society, and then we look around and realize we're not in the driver's seat anymore. Actually, nobody is. The machine itself is in control, just racing blindly through space with no purpose at all.
And for Horkheimer, remember, he's writing this stuff right after World War II. This wasn't some abstract philosophical game. He saw the ultimate, terrifying proof of his theory in fascism. Here you had the most efficient, the most rational, the most bureaucratic systems imaginable, all put to work for the most insane, barbaric, and destructive goals. It was what he called a satanic synthesis. Reason had become the most effective tool of pure madness.
Okay, so if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure? And this is where it gets really tough, because Horkheimer doesn't give us any easy answers. There's no 5-step plan to fix everything. Instead, he points us toward a very difficult, very solemn path forward.
Look, we can't just hit the rewind button and go back to some supposed golden age. That ship has sailed. The only way out, Horkheimer suggests, is for reason to do something it's not used to doing. Turn on itself. To put itself under the microscope and begin a ruthless self-critique. We have to keep asking, how did our way of thinking end up like this? How did it become a tool for domination? We have to diagnose the sickness before we can even think about a cure.
So where's that leave us? Where's the hope? Well, for Horkheimer, it's not going to come from some grand new system or ideology. The hope lies in the individuals, in the martyrs, as he calls them, the people who stared into the inferno and stubbornly refused to be reduced to just a number, just a function in the machine. And the job of philosophy, he says, is to take what they did, their silent act of resistance, and translate it into a language that can finally be heard.
And that leaves us with the final, chilling question that just hangs over this entire analysis. If reason is only a tool, and the machine has no driver, then who or what is actually wielding it? Who or what is really in control? And maybe even more importantly, what does it even mean to try and think for yourself in a world where the very act of thinking seems to have been eclipsed?